So I will just hit record. Good morning, and welcome to our Team Comms That Pop session. It's a really awesome day to be here with you. I have COVID. I will just let you know that I have COVID, unfortunately. So I sound a little bit bunged up, but I'm feeling a lot better today than I was earlier in the week. So thank you so much for joining us. I can see that there are quite a few people on the line already, so I'm going to get straight into the content. And as I mentioned, the Team Comms That Pop, this is a really important concept for us to think about how we can communicate really well and how that helps us to improve the outcomes that we have within our business or wherever we might be working. Here's my details. I'm Julie. I am a ninja here at Think Productive. If you'd like to take a screenshot, please keep in touch. We'd love to chat about this stuff after the session, so would love to hear from you. But I will send an email to everyone just with a few reminders after the session, and to send you the recording too if you'd like to share it with anyone else. Here at Think Productive, we have a really important mission in mind. We're very passionate about this. We are looking to create a work revolution where everyone loves Mondays. I know that sounds a bit crazy, but we love what we do, and we know that there are better ways of creating a productive, sustainable, balanced environment, one that we love to work within, using our ninja skills and our ninja tools. So that's our mission. If you'd like to know more, again, please get in touch. We are sharing a lot of content that's from our Productivity Ninja book, written by Graham Olcott about 15 years ago now. But we also are creating lots of new content. And what I wanted to share with you today is actually one of our newest workshops, our Supercharger Team Comms. We've shared a little bit about this in some other Ninja Skill Boosters, but today's session is specifically digging really deep into a couple of concepts from this workshop in order that we really can supercharge our team comms. What we're going to cover today is why great comms are more important now than ever. Yeah, more important than ever they have been before. We want to talk specifically about this concept of comms that pop, and POPP is a little acronym which I'll explain to you as we go through. And I've thrown in a bonus one, which is another little element of this workshop, which is about how to create calm comms. So they're the three kind of key things I want to go through in the next 25 minutes and get you out of here dead on 9:30 or a little bit before, which is also a really good important thing to do so that people have time to have breaks between meetings or catch-ups. And here's why having great communication is so important. And this is research that was done during COVID. We know that as we move towards a more hybrid working environment, which many of us are doing already, that it's so important to have good trust between us. And these are the most important things that people talked about. You know, this is what makes me feel that I can trust the organisation I'm working with, and helps me to feel a sense of connection and communication within our organisation. So a good sense of job security was number one. But the most important one that we want to focus in on today was this idea of having good communication between leadership and employees, a really important area. Very, very important for our employees to feel connected to us and understand that we're communicating with them regularly, clearly. They understand what's required of them. And one of the other big parts of this was also that most of the interactions we were missing during our lockdowns were these in-person connections. So the top three here, you know, looking at what we were missing this informal social interaction, which is still an issue when we're working in a hybrid environment, whether we are in the office together or whether we are stepping outside of the office. Can be really challenging to see what it is that we're doing to connect with each other on a regular basis. We also know that in-person connection is really important for things like collaborative sessions, especially things like brainstorming. But also formal meetings. It's so much easier to have great meetings when we're all in the same physical space. So how do we overcome some of this? The other really big issue that's come through why comms is so important to focus in on is that there's an awful lot of what we call confusion out there at the moment. Which channel do I use for what? Do I need a meeting? Do I need a phone call? Do I just send an email? Do I put it in Slack channel? What do I do? How do I get through all of this, what we call confusion? Yeah, the idea of just having so many channels, so many ways that we could potentially communicate. We need to find some ways through this, how to make this easier and simpler. And I'm going to dig deep, as I mentioned, to one really key concept as we get into this session so that you can practice some of this stuff. Because what we need to really remember is that every piece of communication that we create, that we put out there to the world, is one step towards or away from the outcomes that we desire, the objectives that we're trying to achieve, the progress that we're trying to make on a project, for instance. Yeah, so we really want to make it count. We want to make sure that every piece of communication that we send and also that we receive is going to be great. It's going to really improve the outcomes, whatever they might be. So let's dig deep. I know we've talked about this one a little bit more before, but I would love for you to just focus in on this concept of POPP. And the idea of POPP is to be really clear when we're thinking about, okay, I've got to communicate today. I've got to actually set up a meeting, or I've got to send an email, or I've got to pick up the phone and call someone. Think POPP before you do anything. This is just a really interesting little acronym that can really help. So POPP, purpose, outcome, priority, and people. I'm going to go through this in detail, and I'm going to give you some examples, and then I'm going to get you to practice doing this. So for instance, we start with, what is the reason for this particular piece of comms? I'll give you the examples maybe after. I'll just talk it through and then we'll do the examples. So what's the reason for this communication? And what is the outcome? What's the result or the action that I'm after here? Yeah, what am I wanting as the outcome? And I also need to focus on the priority. Is this urgent? Is it important? Is it urgent and important? Is it not so urgent, but it's really important? Or you know what, it's not urgent or important. Therefore, that will influence the channel that I pick, the way I communicate. So thinking about what level of urgency and importance is really key here. And who is my target audience? Who is this going to? Is it one person? Is it the whole organization? Is it a group of people? Is it a project team? Thinking about your audience is also really important for, again, selecting the right way to communicate. Here are a couple of examples of how this plays out. So the first example is around, I need to have a conversation about a performance issue. This is a performance issue with an individual. The outcome I want from this piece of communication is an understanding of what the issue is, why there's an issue, and we want to have a clear action plan coming out the other side of this conversation. It's between two people, me and the person that we have the performance issue with, and the priority is high. I need this to be a conversation that is prioritized as important and high. The result is, this is not going to be an email. You're not going to send an email saying, hey, let's have this conversation, and we'll just see, an email coming out. It's going to be a one-on-one discussion. It's going to be a small group meeting with the two of us. If we're working remotely, this can be even more difficult, but it could be that it needs to be through a video call. But you can see that when we sit and we work this out, we can figure out exactly the right approach to take. Our second example is a little bit broader. So the idea is, the purpose of this piece of communication is to share the business financials for the quarter. And the outcome is, we want the whole business to be informed about how we did for that quarter. So it's to everyone. And the priority here is kind of medium, maybe high. Depends on how important it is, how engaged everyone is in the company mission and the company results, so that everyone is informed. We obviously want everyone to know where we're at. So this could be, we have an all hands meeting or a quarterly meeting that this can be presented at. It could be that. Or it could be that this is communicated as an email. It could be both. Yeah. So this one's a little bit of a broader example. It really needs some thinking through. How do we want to communicate quarterly results? Yeah. So I'm going to get you to have a practice. I'm going to get you to take some action in this session We love to make sure that you can take action from what we're talking about. So I would love you to think about, pick a piece of communication that you're about to undertake, maybe today, and use this POPP approach to decide what the best approach will be. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do this. I'm going to give you some time to have a play with POPP. And if you do have questions, I am going to just pop up, even though we can't use the chat for some reason this morning. I will leave up my list of participants. If you would like to ask a question, or you would like to me to unmute you, then I am going to, I've got Jodie's got a hand up. Is Jodie, let me know if you would like me to unmute you. I will allow you to talk. Or if your hand is up from before, I could lower all attendee hands here. I've only got Jodie up. Let me allow Jodie to talk. Jodie, if you want to unmute yourself, do you have a question? No question. Okay, Jodie. No problem at all. Thank you anyway. Okay, well, I'm going to give you a few minutes. I'm just going to set a timer for 3 minutes to have a go with POPP. So have a think about, maybe it could be that you have a team meeting coming up today. Even if you've already set this up, have a think about what that looks like, how you might communicate that session. Just practice and play. And if anybody has questions, I might just pop back up on the screen so that you can see the acronym. And then you can use that just for a couple of minutes, just to have a play. Okay, that's 3 minutes. I'd love to know what you thought of that tool, whether you were able to use it and apply it to a couple of your comms upcoming pieces. Did you use it for emails? Did you use it for meetings? Did you use it, or was the outcome one of those areas that you were able to then direct how to go ahead with that communication? If anyone would like to raise their hand, I'd love to hear if anyone has anything they'd love to share. An example of how POPP worked for you in that situation. Is anyone brave enough to share with us this morning? I'm just waiting for seeing if anyone's going to put up their hand. You don't have to. There's no pressure here. No hands coming up. Okay, all good. No problems. I will keep going. I am going to, if a hand comes up, that's good. I can go back, but I'm just going to whiz back to where we were in the presentation. So, just really encourage you to teach this little technique if you can to your teams. So if you're leading a group of inexperienced team members, or even team members that are struggling with the amount of comms around at the moment, is getting them to think of POPP. Think about how they can apply it to organising their thinking. Just stepping back and taking that moment can really help. And the bonus area that I really wanted to talk about in some detail today was about creating the right tone with our communication. And we use this little acronym again. It comes from our Supercharger Team Comms workshop. Is about creating a calm tone. Now, a calm tone is, again, an acronym for ensuring that every piece of communication that we put out to the world tackles these 4 key areas: clarity, affirm, lead, and maximize. I'm going to take you through those in a little bit of detail too. So when we think about sending out some communication or creating a space for communication, think about, say, for an email. Well, maybe use an email example here. Is be clear and concise. You often get those emails and they're like pages long. They're like an essay. And you kind of have to wade through the details to find out what it is they actually need you to do. Think about how you can be really clear and concise. In our email workshops, we talk about, if you have 3 different subjects, create 3 different emails. Now, that may sound like overkill because you've got 3 different emails, but it's really important that we know what's expected of us and how we can move forward quickly with actioning the response that's required. So, really important, be clear and concise. Also affirm, so acknowledge the recipient's role of this communication and what involvement we need from them, why it's important that they are able to respond and take part in this communication. Again, think of an email. Do we acknowledge that, I really need this input from you? You're the only person that can help me with this. Ensuring that they understand that they're critical to this communication moving ahead well. And we also want to lead here. We want to show positive intent. This isn't just an email that's just more junk for us to open and read. It's about having positive intent. It's going to make a positive impact on our business. It's going to help us move forward as a team. It's going to be a really positive experience to participate in this communication. So lead with positive intent here. And maximize. Ensure that every piece of communication connects and nurtures our business culture and our values. Thinking really clearly here about the importance of communication as a way to achieve our objectives, to move us forward, rather than just to be, a piece of information. To making sure that we're really connecting with every single piece of communication that we send out, that it captures these elements, that ensures that we're moving forward calmly. And don't forget too that whenever we're setting up communication, we need to think about nonverbal communication as well, our body language, the things that we can see, whether it's in a physical space when we're communicating in the real world or in the virtual space too. And often in the hybrid world, we've got both of those things happening at the same time. How do I ensure I create calm comms with the right tone, and I can also ensure my body language and that of others is being included in the thinking process? Here are a few more ideas when we're digging into comms, making sure that we're thinking about what's happening specifically in the hybrid world, but wherever we are, ensuring that we're making the most of our communication strategies. We know that Zoom fatigue has been really common. As we move into the hybrid world, I think we're starting to see people enjoying still the flexibility of being able to work from home. So Zoom can still be a very big function and need for us, whether it's Zoom or Teams, whatever platform you're using for video conferencing. But that's really important to understand, that long meetings can be really hard to keep communicating well within. Think about maybe changing them up. Can you go for a walking meeting? Can you shorten meetings? Can you make it so much more efficient that you don't get this element of Zoom fatigue? The other things to think about when we're thinking about communication is, how do I create connection? How do I, we saw in those first charts, how do I ensure that people feel connected in this session? Do some check-ins. We know that when we start a meeting with positive intent, people feel better, they feel good, and we get better outcomes. Do a pub quiz, do something funny. We'd sometimes do the Chihuahua check-ins. The idea of just creating a little bit of positive energy can create, as we say, a better outcome. Also think about proximity bias. This is a really key one, especially in the virtual world and in the hybrid world. Often we look after people better, we connect better, we communicate better if we're in the same physical space. But if we have people online, especially in this hybrid setting, we've been running workshops where we'll have people in the physical room with us, as well as people online, is thinking about how we look after the people that are dialing in. Can we ensure that we maybe have a buddy system? I've often worked in this way, it's worked quite well, is to have a buddy in the room that looks after the person that's virtual. You can also, even in the hybrid space, create a rule around one person per device. So ensuring that everybody is connecting online to that team that's online, as well as in the physical space too. Also think about setting up things like Truth Tuesdays. We do this as a ninja team. Truth Tuesday is about, tell us how you really are feeling. Is it really tricky? Is this not working so well for you? How are things going? Is it hard working from home today? Is it easier being in the office, or is it full of distractions? So just being really honest with each other to help with this idea of proximity bias. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to have a look at how you think you could improve the comms that you receive. Yeah. What do you see out there? What do you see that's not working well? Have a think about what's not working great for your team at the moment. And also think about how could the comms you create be improved, given a few of the techniques, the POPP, the calm, thinking about proximity bias, those kind of things. So I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to have a think about that. How could you specifically improve the comms that you send out? And how could the comms that you receive be improved? Creates, I guess, an interesting area for you to have some dialogue with your team. Okay, I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes just for you to have some personal reflection time. And again, if anyone would like to share, please feel free to raise your hand and I will unmute you. We can have a chat. Now, I just have a raised hand from Nikki. Nikki, I would love to hear what you're thinking. If you have a question, I've just allowed you to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
I can, Nikki. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I just wondered how you would propose, so if you have a colleague or a manager that's really bad at communicating with you, like particularly via email, how would you propose to actually change their style?
Okay, that's an interesting one, Nikki. Send them along to us and we can work with them. It would be one solution. It really is about a cultural change. I think when you have someone that's not great at communication, it's modeling and styling, I think, as a leader, the kind of behaviours that you want from your team, and helping encourage them with little tips like this. So get them to watch a few of the recordings from some of our comm sessions would be good on our Ninja skill boosters. But thinking about even things like if you model the right behaviour on emails, for instance, what email etiquette do you have as a team? Can you have a shared belief on, what's the right way to set up an email? Great subject line, really short and punchy, great editing so that it's very clear what's needed, using the CC rule correctly. All of these little techniques help us to go, okay, now I understand why that's so important, why that helps others. It can be really tricky, but there are many areas and ways that we could do this. I hope that might help a little bit, Nikki, but maybe we could even talk about some more tips and techniques after the session if you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks for the question. Okay, I'll lower Nikki's hand there. And one of the other things, it actually leads me quite nicely, Nikki, into my next slide, is that I would really encourage you to think about setting up a team comms manifesto. Now, we run a whole workshop on this. It's part of our Supercharger team comms session. We also do one from our meetings manifesto. The idea here is to create an outline, kind of like a rule book, a guide for how we agree we're all going to communicate together. So here we can actually include some of our values, the important things about it being really inclusive, ensuring we always start with positive intent. For us as Think Productive, a lot of our values in here are a little bit about cheeky inquisitiveness, the idea of really creating a shared understanding of how we will communicate together. And the second part of that manifesto can also include a tools guideline. And this can be how we're going to use Zoom or Teams or how we're going to use Slack. It gets really clear what our response rates are going to be, how quickly we expect a response from an email, when to use email, when to pick up the phone, that kind of stuff. Very much encourage you to set up a comms manifesto. This really helps everyone get on the same page, and it allows everyone to understand what the expectations are, because sometimes poor communication can be a lack of understanding and of expectations. So I very much encourage you, if you need some help thinking about how to set up a comms manifesto, please get in touch. Okay, we are pretty much almost done. 2 minutes to go. I was going to get you out of here early. I will get you out of here pretty quickly now. But I just wanted to do our very quick surprise giveaway. It's not so much of a surprise now, but we've been doing this for the last few sessions. We have 3 copies of Work Fuel to give away. I'm going to post it in the chat box. I know that you can't reply to me, but I would love for you to, if you can see the chat box, please just send us an email at hello@thinkproductive.com.au and put in the subject line work fuel, yes please, and we will send you a copy of Work Fuel, which is one of our favourite books by Graham. It's one of the new books. So yes, please feel free to do that, and we will send you out a copy of Work Fuel. You'll win a book. Don't forget, we've got loads of other workshops and things that we can do to help support you and your team. And I also wanted to just quickly mention that our next 6 weeks to Ninja program, which is a really great Ninja intensive to help you to really get on top of lots of your skills in the Ninja zone, is starting on the 17th of August. So please feel free to check that out on the website. Gavin, if you would, you can't do it on the chat box, that's okay. I am just going to find my little cheat sheet here, which I've got. I'm going to post that link in the chat box too. So if you'd like to join us for 6 weeks to Ninja, please feel free. And also our next Ninja Skill Booster is going to be about beating procrastination. And it's going to be about some of our favorite concepts, the idea of eating frogs and thinking dust. I'm going to post that in the chat box too. So if you'd like to subscribe and sign up to join us for our next Ninja Skill Booster, that one's going to be a really fun one too. So please feel free to keep in touch. Let us know how you're going. I'm going to just skip through now to my last slide. That's on the 24th of August, just so that you know that one's there. But please keep in touch. It is 9:30, so I'm going to let you guys head off for the day. I hope that was useful. We will post out to you, as we mentioned, a recording. So thanks so much for joining. Have a wonderful day and take care.